All right, let's get started and we'll demonstrate here how you set up a bet as a room owner on DoubleDice. First things you'll note is that you need to connect your wallet. So go ahead and click this button, which will prompt you to enter your password if the case is for MetaMask, if this is the first login. If not, then of course it will just connect directly and you gotta wait until it shows you the number here of your wallet itself. Now, what is this box right here? It shows you what your current allowance is. And this comes from the tokens that you have staked to own the right for hosting your bets and rooms. So this number will show you how many you have available in total, how many of those have you already used right now, and hence how many are remaining for you to set up. So let's say that you only had an allowance for one bet and you have no bets going on right now, then this would show you one. However, if you have already an active bet, it will show you that you have 0 available and your max is 1 and your active is 1. As soon as you resolve that bet, it will go up to 1 so that you can set up a new bet, right? Now, that's just for information basis. You see here that we are now logged in, so to say, in the decentralized methodology. Go ahead and select this one, which says create bet. When you create the bet, you will have an option to choose from many of these categories. So pick one which suits you the best. For the purposes of this example, we are going to do one for a crypto project, right? So let's click on crypto projects. Within that, you might have a subcategory depending on the categories you choose. And here you have price raise, hash rate, or any other topic that you want the people to be betting on. So let's go and set up a price race, right? And we're going to call this crypto horse race, right? And why is it a crypto horse race? Because you will be betting on which of these tokens gains the most percentage in the 24 hours ending March 18th, 2022. I'm sorry, let's make it April. We are in April 18th, 2022 at 2200 UTC. Make sure that there are no mistakes in the description because this is what the people will be relying on to gain the essence of the bet, because not everything is clear from the crisp title that you will be providing for your bets. This is very important. Once you've done this, click on next step and you'll see that now you're going to select the type of the bet. And these are threefold: single variable, 2 opponents, and multiple opponents. Now remember, we selected price race as the subcategory. So obviously it's going to be a race for the most gains between multiple different tokens. So the right one for us here would be multiple opponents. However, just for clarifications, let's discuss what it will be the case where you have to select single variable or 2 opponents. A single variable within a crypto project could be, for example, how many nodes will be staked for a given protocol at the end of the month. And then you got a scalar outcome where you say it's 0 to 500,000 to 1 million, 1 to 1.5 million, more than 1.5 million. So it's a single variable which the people are betting on, but there will be many options which the people can actually bet on. And we'll come to the betting options, right? So let's go ahead and select multiple opponents. And in case you were wondering what the 2 opponents is, if you are just selecting a bet which is between 2 teams or 2 tokens or 2 parties or 2 opposing forces, then you would select 2 opponents. So as we said, right now for us, the right one to select is multiple opponents. We're going to have to give the names and select the images for all the opponents that we wish to be shown in the bet page. So let's go ahead and select a few opponents. Make sure that you select the image first. In terms of uploading it, you're going to go ahead and give a name to the different opponents, which will be visible in the bet itself. And as you go along, note that you will have to load an image. Without that, it will not allow you to go through. So if you're unsure, make sure that you have good quality, but not so heavy images to get started so that you know that it will work. Yeah. Important to note also is that The whole setup is based on IPFS, which means the heavier your images are, the longer it will take for loading, because it's not managed from a centralized server as it would be the case with most other platforms, right? So we've now went ahead and set up the multiple opponents. We've got three, just to set this example right. We've got DAG Constellation. Again, make sure that all the spellings are correct, Bitcoin and Polygon. Now, these are the opponents, but this is not what the people will be betting on. So you need to define the options that the people are going to bet on. Now, in this case, it's pretty clear that the options which the people are going to be betting on are going to be the same. However, it can be that, for example, as we mentioned before, if you had just a question of saying how many nodes will be operating on that constellation, then you might only have one image because it's only one that constellation nodes that they're betting on, but there will be multiple options for 0 to 500,000 to 1 million, and so on and so forth, right? But here it's easy. So let's go ahead and set up the options. Remember, options are the ones where people are going to put the money on. Now we've set up three options which the people can bet on. You will go ahead and then select the tokens with which people will do the actual betting. And this is the same token in which you will earn your rake percentage as well. Now you will have various different whitelisted tokens to select from. Right now, we are doing a demonstration. So let's just go ahead and use a test.6. We minted that internally, right? Just for testing purposes. This is an important element which we call the starting pot, and this is optional, as it says. You do not have to have this, but why would something like this be important is for the people who might want to have an incentive to start with. So if you would go here and put $100 worth of starting pot, this means that whoever comes in, even if there is no other counterparty who is going to get it wrong, the guy who gets it right would still have access to this starting pot, which you are funding from your own pocket. So remember also that these are the funds you will need to have in your wallet before you start to put in a starting pot. We're not going to do this right now for the example setup, so let's go ahead. These are now the time elements, yeah? And you are going to set that up in your local time zone. The contracts will convert that to UTC, and then everybody else will be able to visualize in the local time zone as well, yeah? So let's go ahead and see what this is. Bet start. Now you can say I want the bet to start immediately, or you can say I want the bet to start a little bit later on. Remember, we said that the bet starts or ends on 18th of April at 2200 UTC and 24 hours price gain between that. So the bet should start also on the 18th of April, right? And you're going to say at 2200 UTC. When does the betting end? This is very important. Remember, the end of the event is when the result is known. So this is going to be 18th of April 2022 at 2300 UTC. 2200 UTC is 2123 for me, right? Bet end normally occurs in between the bet start and the actual results known. And normally you should allow for at least a little bit of time for the volatility to occur, which means that let's say that I would say, let's only allow the people to put the money on what they think is going to be correct at 11 in the night locally for me, 3 hours before, which means at 8, no more money goes in. For the last 3 hours of the bet that runs, nobody can put in the money, but that is where the uncertainty or the volatility will occur, right? This is very important. Make sure that these are linear. Bet start is before the bet end, and that the bet end is before end of the event. Rule of thumb, 20 to 25% of the time between bet start and end of the event is where you put the bet end. Yeah, so that it allows for some excitement of what the actual outcome will be. If you allow people to continue betting until the end of the event, it's not going to be a great experience because everybody might want to wait until the last minute just to see what the correct option is, and more than likely they would know it. Yeah, so leave some time in between the bet end and the end of the event, which is actually the result time, as we've said. Okay. That being said, you go to the size of the bets. We're not going to have any minimum or maximum, but if you do want to create a high roller table, you could have, for example, 1,000 minimum bet if you want, or if you don't want one single large bet to take away all the money in the pot, you can also say that I want to have a max of 100, which would be more even. So there are different options you can play around with in terms of the minimum bet and the maximum bet. Now, the rate percentage is what you are going to charge the people for the pooled funds, your fees as a socializing fee and for having access to the smart contracts and the tech stack that will allow you to set up this bet. We say 1 to 20%, but of course, lower the better to be fair in real and also the perceived fairness of the entire platform itself. So we're going to choose 2% here, right? And we go ahead. The multiplier, very fascinating aspect of our platform here. Why is this important, right? As you will see when you go and hover over the eye icon or the information icon, it says you're going to include here the time incentive for early bets, right? What does it mean? The multiplier which you are going to give here is, let's say if we give 25, yeah, just for the sake of explaining it. Now note that the bet start and the end of the event is going 25 hours. When the bet starts, this multiplier will be at 25, and this gradually reduces to 1 at the bet end. Yeah. Now, this means that the earlier bets carry a higher weight in their share of the pot. So, for example, if I would bet $10 right at the outset and I gain the multiplier 25, then my weighted bet is $250, right? And let's say, just for the sake of convenient math, you put in $10 when the multiplier is 12.5. Your weighted bet will be 125. But note the difference in the multiplier. Mine was 25, yours is 12 and a half. So my multiplier is twice as much as yours, which means when the final payouts occur, and assuming that you and I got it right, my returns will be twice as much as yours, right? So this multiplier is a metric which we are giving to our players to incentivize early betting, with a very common and basic understanding that the earlier you bet on the correct outcome, the higher your relative return will be. Yeah, that's the base explanation you can give to anybody who asks you that question. I have just provided a slightly more mathematical explanation, but essentially, the earlier you bet, the higher your relative return compared to anybody else who gets it right as well, but comes in at a later point in time, right? So let's leave it at 25 and let's go to the next step. Now, it says bet close time must be after the bet start time, right? And this is correct because what we have done is have it wrong by saying 18th of April, 10 o'clock, 18th of April, 8 o'clock. Now, bet can't end before it starts. So we have to correct the mistake. These kind of prompts are set up in the system to give you a general guidance. Best, of course, if you have sorted it out way in advance, exactly what details you're going to put in. So now it looks more or less in order. Let's try to select next step now. That was accepted. Now we have to put the source of the results. This is important. This is shown on the bet page as well. And this is where you tell the people where are you going to source the information from to ascertain the correct result for the bet which you have just floated. Yeah. So in our case, we have 3 coins, so we can't give one URL. Feel free to add more sources and give exact sources for the price of that constellation, for the price of Bitcoin and the price of Polygon, the 3 tokens we chose, or you can select one which says I'm going to take all 3 from one place, which is the coin market cap. Yeah. One source is minimum. It's not optional. It is important and absolutely mandatory to include. Additional sources are optional. Now, when you look at the visibility section here, it says public, open to all, shown in the lobby, or private, which is invite only and not shown in the lobby. So these are the 2 options which we've given you as an owner to say, hey, I'm going to invite only the high rollers in my network who I know want to participate in this bet, and I don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry to show up in my bet. Well, then select the private invite only, in which case you will have to go and share the link of the bet page you have created in the end with the closed community, and this will not be shown in the lobby or the bet list, where people who are generally browsing the different bets available would just try and see where and what takes their interest. Most likely option you're going to choose is going to be the public option. This gives you a wider reach because not only are you going to be able to reach out to the people who you have in your immediate network, but it's also going to be visible to the people who are generally going to be ending up in the lobby and seeing what else is available to put their money on, right? So we're going to select public, agree to the terms and conditions, and go on and create the bet page. Remember, this is an on-chain transaction, so this will take a fairly significant amount of time. Also note that this is a decentralized setup, which means that everything needs to be populated in IPFS before the bet page is created and given out to you. Yeah. So go ahead and confirm the transaction in MetaMask, and then wait a little bit until the bet page is ready. Once it is ready, then it will give you that it was successful and that the bet page has now been created. As you can see, the room has now been created. You've now got a specific link just for your room, which go ahead and copy for yourself, which will tell you you've copied it. You can socially share it with everybody else. You can go into the room directly, right? Now let's go into the room and see what it looks like. Well, this time it's gone on fairly quickly. So you see it's populated everything based on our inputs. It's got the title right. It's got the description. It's got the 3 images, the description of the opponents. It says what is the time until which bets are accepted, and a countdown, which creates a sense of urgency for the people looking at it, right? Now, this graph you will see is empty right now because, of course, that nobody has put any money on it. You've just created the bet, and this will show you what the results are, right? Note that your 2% rake is also made publicly viewable because everybody should have a right to know how much you're going to charge. So, of course, if you had something like 20%, then people might go to a different crypto horse race, which might have much lower percentages, for example, right? Now, that is how you are going to view your bet page. You've now understood how you create a bet page and what it will look like. Thanks very much for watching this video, and do feel free to browse other tutorial videos for other aspects of the platform. Thank you very much.